Vampire movies are a dime a dozen, with them seemingly getting a crop of new films every few years. However, it has been proven that werewolf movies are a lot more difficult to bring to the silver screen, which is a damn shame because there are some truly great werewolf movies and stories out there. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary werewolf horror movies that changed all the rules. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. In at number 5, The Wolfman. Directed by George Wagner and released in 1941, The Wolfman is a horror film starring Lon Chaney Jr. in the title role. After Larry purchases a silver-headed walking stick that represents a werewolf, he is attacked by a creature of folklore. He then transforms into a wolf every full moon and hunts for prey. Now, unlike the rest of our list, that is one of the more classic depictions of werewolves on our list. However, it was also the first of its kind to do it. The movie set the standard for werewolf movies, even introducing the concept that werewolves are vulnerable to silver and are marked with a pentagram. A chilling poem is even repeated throughout the movie. I quote, "Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moons is bright." The poem, contrary to popular belief, was not an ancient legend, but in fact an invention of screenwriter Seod Mack, with it being repeated in every subsequent film in which the Wolfman appears. The movie currently holds a 90% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with the general consensus reading, "A handsomely told tale with an affecting performance from Lon Chaney Jr. The Wolfman remains one of the classics of the Universal horror stable." In at number 4, we have Dog Soldiers. Directed by Neil Marshall in his directorial debut and released in 2002, Dog Soldiers is a horror movie starring Sean Pertwee, Kevin McKidd and Liam Cunningham. During a routine nighttime training mission in the Scottish Highlands, a small squad of British soldiers expected to rendezvous with the Special Ops unit instead find a bloody massacre with a sole survivor. The savage attackers of the Special Ops team return and the men are rescued by Megan, a zoologist who identifies what hunts them as werewolves. Without transport or communication, the group is forced to retreat to a farmhouse to wait for the full moon to disappear at dawn. Dog Soldiers has been called a mix between Jaws, Aliens and Predator with a werewolf twist, and who doesn't want that? The movie has a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor, however, the domineering creature design makes Dog Soldiers one of the creepiest and most entertaining werewolf movies of all time. The movie currently holds a 77% approval rating, with the general consensus reading, "Frightening, funny and packed with action, Dog Soldiers is well worth checking out for genre fans," and marks writer-director Neil Marshall as a talent to keep an eye on, and kept an eye on we did, with Marshall going on to direct The Descent, Doomsday, Hellboy and The Reckoning. In at number 3 we have Underworld. Directed by Len Wiseman and released in 2003, Underworld is an action horror film that centers on the secret history of vampires and lycans, an abbreviated form of lycanthro, which means werewolf. The plot revolves around Celine, played by Kate Beckinsale, a vampire death dealer hunting lycans. She finds herself attracted to a human, Michael Corvin, who is being targeted by the lycans. After Michael is bitten by one of them, Celine must decide whether to do her duty and kill him or go against her clan and save him. Underworld is unexpectedly a Romeo and Juliet tale set amid a war between vampires and werewolves, breaking all the rules in the process. Not to mention, the movie relies on practical effects and less on computer-generated imagery. On top of that, it also has one of the most intimidating werewolf designs in movie history. Now, as a whole, the movie and its subsequent sequels aren't the best, but it certainly changed all the rules of the werewolf genre. As of right now, it holds a 31% approval rating, with the general consensus reading, "Though stylish to look at, Underworld is tedious and derivative." Roger Ebert went on to state that "this is a movie so paltry in its characters and shallow in its story that the worm seems to exist primarily to provide graphic visuals." I'm guessing he wasn't a fan. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest, because I wasn't either. Coming in at number 2, An American Werewolf in London. Directed by John Landis and released back in 1981, An American Werewolf in London is a horror comedy film starring David Norton, Jennifer Agutter and Griffin Dunn. The plot follows two American backpackers, David and Jack, who are attacked by a creature while traveling to England, causing David to question whether he will become a werewolf under the next full moon. Now, despite the movie's comedic undertones, it's a groundbreaking, grisly masterpiece with chilling special effects and a transformation scene that lingers with you long after the credits roll. At An American Werewolf in London has garnered an 87% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with the general consensus reading terrifying and funny in almost equal measure. John Landis's horror comedy crosses genres while introducing Rick Baker's astounding makeup effects. However, surprisingly, Roger Ebert's review was less favourable, with him stating, "An American Werewolf in London seems curiously unfinished, as if director John Landis spent all his energy on spectacular set pieces and then didn't want to bother with things like transitions, character development, or an ending, straight savagery." Despite that, An American Werewolf in London is chiefly appreciated as a milestone in the comedy horror genre and for its innovative makeup effects, with the Daily Telegraph stating that it was the first mainstream hit which managed to make its gross-out effects simultaneously shocking and hilarious, and called the signature werewolf transformation scene stunningly ingenious without a computer effect in sight, but also suffused with squirm-inducing agony. And finally, in at number 1 we have Ginger Snaps. Directed by John Fawcett and released back in 2000, Ginger Snaps stars Emily Perkins and Catherine Isabel, two teenage sisters who have a fascination with death. The plot concerns two outcast sisters, Ginger and Bridget, in the mindless suburban town of Bailey Downs. On the night of Ginger's first period, she is savagely attacked by a wild creature. Ginger's wounds miraculously heal, but something's not quite right. Now Bridget must save her sister and save herself. The movie smartly parallels lycanthropy with puberty, something that has never been seen before on screen, with the teenagers finding themselves growing apart once Ginger begins undergoing unusual changes. The film garnered an 89% approval rating, with the general consensus reading, "The strong female cast and biting satire of teenage life making Ginger Snaps far more memorable than your average werewolf movie or teen flick." And that's the point, this movie is far from your average werewolf movie, with it showcasing the pains of puberty and the bond between two sisters. The movie is darkly humorous that builds to a gut punch of an ending, with Bridget being forced to try and save her sister from her now monstrous identity. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list of any werewolf movies that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary vampire horror movies that changed all the rules. Leslie Swanson said, "I love the vampire genre except for Twilight. We don't talk about Twilight." No, we don't talk about Twilight, but it's a guilty pleasure. I won't turn it off if it's on, you know? We all enjoy it, we just don't talk about it. It's a movie, but we love to hate it. Erin G said 30 Days of Night not only changed all the rules, but it made sense and was really scary. 30 Days of Night is amazing. Well worth a watch, even if it has Josh Hartnett, one of the most boring actors in history. N.A. Perry said, "This is one of my favourite top 5 so far, especially good to see Isle of the Dead featured. It's not often talked about." It's very true. I've never talked about Isle of the Dead, so there you go. The Mad Husher said, "Could you please do the best ghost movies?" We should. I think we've done paranormal movies. Maybe I'm wrong. We should do it. Todd Van Dien said, "Lucy, I always laugh at your jokes." Thank you, you're probably the only one. Chris laughs sometimes, but I think it's out of pity. Christopher Mendez said, "I could definitely see Lucy as a vampire. Not one of us would object to being bitten by the pale goddess." Who says I'm not already a vampire? That's why I'm so pale. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later.